We can't even have a quiet fall Saturday evening here in Canada without Justin Trudeau ruining something. And to add more salt to the wound, specifically, we're talking about India relations with Canada and how Justin Trudeau has just blown that up. So much so that all of India news is bashing Canada, but specifically Justin Trudeau yet again, to the point where even CTV, you're going to see later on in the video, is like, oh boy, this is not good between the Canada and India relations. So we're going to be talking about the India stuff in the second half of the video. The first half I want to reserve for this one-on-one sit down between the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, who sits down with Vashi to talk about how she's protecting kids' rights, specifically in Alberta, which is a major, major win for, minors in Alberta. But hopefully this is going to set the precedent for other provinces to do the same thing across Canada, to the point where maybe we might even see some federal legislation being pushed forward to protect kids' rights. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And we have to talk quickly about protecting ourselves, specifically protecting ourselves online, which is a great segue for today's sponsor. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We've teamed up together and we're offering my audience 83% off for using code SUNSHINE, which can be found linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below. It's no surprise that we're living in a time of censorship, and Canada is unfortunately leading that race because of Justin Trudeau. Now, Justin Trudeau wants to make sure that you can't see the news. He wants to make sure that you can't see certain content on streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, Crave, and you shouldn't have Disney Plus because, of course, our finance minister said if you can't afford things, you should cancel Disney Plus. So the way around this is through a VPN such as Private Internet Access. Now, for those who don't know what a VPN is, it's a way to encrypt your data, basically putting a cloak over you so that you can freely browse the internet without feeling like your personal information is at risk or the government getting and selling your personal information. And the best way that I like to go about this, the best cloak that I like to put over myself, is Private Internet Access, which again can be found linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below for 83% off. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring this video. Without further ado, let's get into this one-on-one interview. Here we go.
I wanted to start off on the timing of this and more bluntly, why this is a priority for you right now. Albertans, for example, are still waiting on the tax break that you promised in the election. If lower oil prices hold, your surplus will evaporate into a deficit. More than 500,000 Albertans don't have a family doctor. The number of people in Edmonton experiencing homelessness, we just found out yesterday, has jumped by 2,000 in the last year to sit at 5,000. Are you doing this now to bolster your support in your party's leadership review this weekend?
Well, look, we are focused on all of those issues. We've got a budget that will be coming through in February where we hope we'll be able to accelerate the tax cut. We've been refocusing the healthcare system so that one of our priorities could be met, that every person has a family doctor or a nurse practitioner. And we've set up navigation centers in both Calgary and Edmonton to begin getting services to those who are on the streets. So we can do a lot of things all at once. We're a very active government, and this is a priority that has been identified by parents. We've identified problems as well internationally with new evidence coming forward, like the Cass report in the UK. And we felt that it was time to put some guidelines around these issues.
Again, though, I'm unclear as to why the need for it. I take your point on other reports in other places that have been conducted, but
I think that Vashi's digging a little too much into this and trying to tie in the leadership review, which is happening again, as previously stated, this weekend, in terms of Danielle Smith and just her competence, if she's still fit to be Premier of Alberta. It's happening internally. But this is something that Danielle Smith has said, like almost as far back as a year ago. And then Pierre Poilievre came out afterwards saying this should absolutely be done, and he stands with parents' right to protect their kids. So the fact that she's trying to tie it between just the leadership review, it's a bit of a far stretch.
But there's only, I think the population in Alberta, from what I read in the last Stats Can, of trans people was just 0.37% of the population. The government can only have so many priorities, can only generate so many outcomes. Why, again, would you choose this? How are Albertans to assume anything other than you would like to curry favor with certain aspects of your base?
Well, I think families and parents want to know what's going on with their kids. That's kind of where it began. We have a lot of parents who got in touch with us concerned about what was being taught in schools. And so one of the aspects that we're doing is making sure that parents have an opt-in on sexual orientation, sexuality, and gender ideology classes so that they can either opt their kids into it or at least be able to have a conversation with them when they come home. We also know that the beginning of transition happens with social transition. And we think it's important that if there's a formal name change or a formal pronoun change, that parents aren't the last to know. Parents also need to be included in that decision so that they can help and support their child every step of the way.
Yeah.
In addition, we know that these are really complex issues with kids. We want to make sure that they've got appropriate mental health support, counseling support, so that they don't make a decision prematurely that might impact their fertility or impact their personal health for the rest of their lives. So
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten so bad that my wife and we're like 90% of the way decided that we're going to be homeschooling, specifically because of this corrupt, wild, radical SOGI program that's in the school curriculum here in British Columbia. And had John Rustad won the premier race and be the new premier of British Columbia, and had we had should we had a conservative majority, my wife and I would have maybe leaned a little bit more in favor of not necessarily homeschooling, but putting them in the school system, but still kind of 50-50 split. But like I said, we're about 90% of the way there. There's still a couple years to decide on what exactly we're going to do. But I know a lot of people are definitely big advocates for homeschooling these days because of just how crazy the school curriculum is here in Canada.
We want to make sure that kids are making these decisions when they're mature enough to be able to make them.
You said at the beginning that you're basing it on what a lot of parents have told you. How many parents?
Oh, I don't know, hundreds, thousands. We hear about it all the time.
Well, there's a difference.
Fair enough. I mean, there's enough concern out there that we have heard about it in town halls. We hear about it in letters that come into our offices. We hear about it in the meetings that we have. And so this is the reason why we knew that we needed to act on it. When you have decisions that are being made that could affect a child's health, we believe that they need to make those as adults. And that's part of the reason for why we're moving ahead on this.
I do want to give props to Vashi. She's definitely got that RBF going, but it's not only towards the Conservatives. It's towards both sides. She has been I'm going to go out on a limb and say hypercritical of Liberal ministers and just everyone that is running government right now at the federal level. And now we're finding out even towards the provincial level with the premier. So she's being pretty fair across the board, and kudos to her.
The scope of them. According to information from your own government, there were only 8 gender-affirming top surgeries for youth in Alberta between January 22 and February 2023. There were nearly 2,700 total claims for non-surgical interventions over the same period, but your government could not clarify exactly how many of those treatments were for things other than gender dysphoria. And actually, the only thing you could clarify, your government could clarify, was that the majority of them represented stuff that was not gender dysphoria. So what... Again, I'll put to you, like, what is the need that you are actually addressing here if the people that you are protecting are so few in number?
Well, I can tell you, Kelly was one of the individuals who came to us today, and she spoke with us, and she's an individual who transitioned to male as an adult, realized that it was not the right decision for her and transitioned back, and she's now created a detransitioning organization to help others do so. And she said, if I was unclear and uncertain at age 37, how's a 10-year-old supposed to know this? Kids need to be able to get the mental health support and also the appropriate medical support, family support, before they make some of these incredibly life-altering decisions. I mean, our main purpose is to make sure that kids aren't making decisions that will prematurely prevent them from being able to have kids of their own one day. There's certain decisions that you make as an adult. We put all kinds of restrictions on children until their brain is developed to a point where they understand the consequences of their decisions. And these are adult decisions. And so we're going to make sure that kids have the opportunity to make them when they're older.
And that should be the end of the discussion right there. There should not be any more discussion around this. It should just be, boom, that's it. No more. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That was perfectly well said, Premier Danielle Smith.
And do you have evidence that beyond that one example you've provided, any of those 8 surgeries, for example, that took place in the last year did not include any kind of guidance or counseling or mental health help, or that their parents were against it. Again, a question of what evidence you're basing these decisions on.
Well, if you look at the Cass report, she went through and gave Dr. Hilary Cass and gave the most comprehensive 4-year study of all of the evidence that's out there. And quite frankly, where the evidence is lacking is on the long-term consequences of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and what happens with kids when they transition. How many of them remain happy with that decision well into adulthood? How many of them detransition? These are all things that we need to know. We shouldn't be experimenting on children. And so we want to make sure that we have good counseling with appropriate doctor support, appropriate parental support, and that kids are old enough and mature enough to be able to make and understand the decisions that they're making. So we're putting some guidelines around it, and we think we found the right balance.
There you go. And that's phenomenal. I think more people than ever are going to be jumping on board with that decision. Premier Smith, good job on protecting Alberta. And now we're going to shift things into India, because why not? We just can't have a normal weekend here in Canada. India, a cyber adversary, says Trudeau government New Delhi shreds claim. The Ministry of External Affairs said that under Justin Trudeau's administration, senior Canadian officials have openly confessed that Canada is seeking to manipulate global opinions against India. New Delhi. The Trudeau-led Canadian government's latest actions suggest it has started treating India as an enemy country. India has been added to a list of enemy nations in terms of cybersecurity and has been labeled a cyber adversary. New Delhi today called it another Canadian strategy to attack and malign India internationally. That is craziness. Oh my goodness. In a press conference today, the Ministry of External Affairs also said that under the Trudeau's administration, senior Canadian officials have openly confessed that Canada is seeking to manipulate global opinions against India. The Foreign Ministry also said that, like other instances, these allegations and cybersecurity reports are made without a shred of evidence. We see this as another Canadian strategy to attack India. Their senior officials have openly confessed that Canada is seeking to manipulate global opinions against India. Oh my goodness. That is horrible. And then CTV is also reporting India trashes Canada for linking Home Minister to Sikh activist plot. Diplomatic row led to the expulsion of each other's top diplomats last month, even though it was proven that India recalled their diplomats before Canada was able to publicly say that they are being expelled. So it's just a matter of timing, but very weird semantics on Canada's part. The government of India's protests in the strongest terms to the absurd and baseless references made to the Union Home Minister of India. Wow. Canada's Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister David Morrison told Parliament members of the National Security Committee on Tuesday that he had confirmed Sham's name to the Washington Post, which first reported the allegations. Morrison did not explain how Canada knew of Sham's alleged involvement. So you have Canadians, and I've made videos about this recently. You have Canadians that are literally leaking information to American journalists. Like this is just so deep rooted. It's not a good look for Canada. Let's take a look at Global News' video here.
India is slamming Canada for linking its home minister to alleged plots against Sikh separatists. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaswal announced Saturday that India has lodged protest with Canada. The Washington Post reported last month that Canadian officials alleged Amit Shah was behind violence and intimidation of Sikh separatists in Canada. Canadian Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister David Morrison told a parliamentary panel on Tuesday that he had provided that information to the newspaper. India has previously denied any role in the alleged targeting of Sikh dissidents. The dispute has led to expulsions of diplomats in both countries.
Some of our consular officials were recently informed by the Canadian government that they have been and continued to be under audio and video surveillance. Their communications have also been intercepted. We have formally protested to the Canadian government as we deem these actions to be a flagrant violation of relevant diplomatic and consular conventions. By citing technicalities, the Canadian government cannot justify the fact that it is indulging in harassment and intimidation. Our diplomatic and consular personnel are already functioning in an environment of extremism and violence. This action of the Canadian government aggravates the situation and is incompatible with established diplomatic norms and practices. The Government of India protests in the strongest terms to the absurd and baseless references made to the Union Home Minister of India before the committee by Deputy Minister David Morrison. In fact, the revelation that high Canadian officials deliberately leak unfounded insinuations to the international media as part of a conscious strategy to discredit India and influence other nations only confirms the view Government of India has long held about current Canadian government's political agenda and behavioral pattern. Such irresponsible actions will have serious consequences for bilateral ties.
Oh my goodness, man. We can't just have a normal freaking week here in Canada. And then to add the icing on top of the cake, here's India News just going all in on Justin Trudeau.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with CNN News 18. Now let's talk about the international front. Now, amid India-Canada tension, Natalie Joyen, the NSA to the Prime Minister Trudeau, has in fact made a shocking claim. Now, Natalie has claimed that it was a strategic decision to leak information to the Washington Post, and she, along with the Deputy Foreign Minister David Morrison, leaked the information. Let's listen into what exactly Natalie had to say.
Deputy Minister Morrison and I spoke to the Washington Post on background late Sunday afternoon, October 13. We provided non-classified information on the action we had taken to cooperate with India and explained how the evidence showed links to the government of India conducting illegal activities against Canadians, including threats to their lives. The government of India has, from the beginning, accused Canada of engaging in a politically motivated investigation and using the Canadian media to further this. This is clearly not the case. However, we were prepared for this accusation to resurface. Therefore, we made a strategic decision to engage a respected international news outlet that had already published on the subject to ensure the record was straight and that our side of the story would be widely heard.
Let me now go across to my colleague Siddhant Mishra. Siddhant, a very shocking claim that is in fact coming in fact a confession that is coming in from Natalie. In fact, she went on to say that it was a leak from their own side, it was a strategy from their own side. What was the message that they were trying to send out by leaking it to a US publication in order, irrespective of actually directly engaging with India, they went ahead and leaked it to a US publication?
Look, that's what they are saying, that it's a strategic decision to leak a certain piece of information to the leading publication in the United States. In fact, they were questioned also by the committee that why this was not done to the Canadian newspapers. Canadians should know first about anything regarding this case, as Canadian citizen has died. Perhaps that was an argument which committee gave to them. But they said that it has been done strategically. It's a strategic decision. But the fact is, Sharon, that it involves the reputation of one country, and it also involves the reputation of the Home Minister of one country. Without any proof, the NSA and the Deputy Foreign Minister rank officials are leaking information to the foreign press, perhaps implicating the involvement of the sitting Home Minister of the world's largest democracy. And that is without any proof. Perhaps shows that how desperate the Trudeau administration is when it comes to blaming, bashing, and implicating India. Point number one. Point number two is that that it has been more than 1 year. Not a single shred of evidence has been shared with India. All what the Trudeau government want to do is media trial and leaking information to media, sensitive, classified information to media, so that they can make their cases stronger in the media, and media narrative goes against India. That is perhaps what they are looking at right now. And the third is that if it had been any other country, Sherin, there would have been an action on the senior officials, whoever had leaked such kind of sensitive information which involves the Home Minister or a senior officer of any other country, name of any other country, because it has it is directly maligning the reputation and image of somebody without any proof, without any evidence. So that
This is not the first time Justin Trudeau has done this, right? He's leaked information, or insiders within the Canadian government have leaked information on multiple occasions involving India, and then also the baseless claims. Like, I'm not here to defend India by any means, but they are the largest democracy, and I don't see Justin Trudeau's angle for trying to attack India the way he has been going at it for the past year since the killing of the Sikh separatists labeled as a terrorist in India, Najar Singh, that happened here in Surrey, BC. Like, this is just insanity all around, no matter how you look at it. The way Justin Trudeau is handling the diplomatic relations between Canada and India is so poor that Canada is not going to have a good relationship with India for a very, very long time.
that shows that how desperate the Trudeau administration is to do media trial against India, to malign the reputation of the Indian politician, to implicate India in this case, and they are ready to go to any extent. They're ready even to leak the classified information. Sharon, leaking classified information is not allowed in any country, not even in Canada also. So they may be saying that the information wasn't classified, and it was a strategic decision. But the fact is that it falls under the classified category because till now, the Canada doesn't have any proof of him being directly involved. And the fourth and important one is that NSA has said that she has not leaked the information of Home Minister regarding the Home Minister. She has not given name of the Home Minister. Yeah. But the Foreign Minister, David Morrison, is saying that, yes, I did confirm it to the journalist. So there again, there is a contradiction between what NSA is saying and what Foreign Minister is saying. So it looks like it's a botched up episode which was started by Justin Trudeau, and since nothing is being achieved, so they are desperately using all sorts of tactics by leaking things to media, by doing media trial, by fronting RCMP, etc., so that the pressure is can be built on India. And there's a narrative which could be created so that it helps Mr. Trudeau politically.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you, Siddhant, for getting us all those details. And with that, we'll slip into a short break. More news and updates.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for Justin Trudeau. He's, ruining relationships. And when it comes time, inevitably, for Pierre Poilievre to inherit, that job as Prime Minister of Canada, he's going to have a lot of put a lot of elbow grease into reuniting these relationships. Like, India's the largest democracy in the world. I'm personally not interested in our diplomatic relations going to absolute crap. I don't think anybody really is. At the same time, Canada still has to protect, our sovereignty and make sure that we're not being penetrated or infiltrated by foreign governments. But at the same time, there's a way to handle certain situations diplomatically, like, the fact that Canada was harboring somebody who was literally labeled as a terrorist in India for a lot of time. And, India was trying to figure something out in Canada. Justin Trudeau, the Liberal government, was just not having anything to do with it. I think this is, it's a disgrace. I don't think this is a good look. And I think a lot of Canadians wish that this was not happening. So on behalf of Canada, I think we're sorry. I don't think this is a good look all around. But nonetheless, that's my personal opinion. And I would absolutely love to know yours. This is the end of the video, everybody. I'd like to thank you for watching this far, and if you did enjoy it, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. Just remember that supporting the sponsors of this channel does support this channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.